PoPolitickin.com.
Hey, Dave Daley here, the Monster Motivator. We are coming to you on the Po Politickin podcast, and we are bringing the energy, and we're going to show you how to knock out the fear in the first round, baby.
Welcome back to the Po Politickin Show. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, Facebook, iTunes. I'm now politicking with my homie, the Monster Motivator, Dave Daley. How you doing, bro?
What's up, big man? How are you?
I'm great. And since you're the Monster Motivator, it's almost Halloween. Who's your favorite monster?
Oh man, it's a good question, man. I think Frankenstein was always my favorite.
Yeah, I gotta go with Freddy Krueger.
All right, there you go. There you go.
And then we had you on the show earlier this year, but I still want you to just go to your background a little bit, let them know how you got into entrepreneurship and public speaking.
Yeah, I've been an entrepreneur my whole adult life. I've built and sold 3 companies in 3 different industries, but it certainly didn't start out that way. As we say, it was a rough paper route. I was left back in the 2nd grade, diagnosed with ADD. They told me I had a learning disorder, and I never even graduated high school. And at 19, I'm sitting in a jail cell looking at 8 to 10 if things don't go my way. So it was a rough paper route, man, in the beginning, but I got introduced to personal development. I had some people come into my life that actually helped really form me and create a great environment, and then I just kind of ran with it and just and haven't looked back since. And that's why I love personal development, man. I'm a student that's just sharing what I've been taught, and I know that it's made such a difference in my life and so many people's lives that. I just love it, and I love the platform speaking. I just keynoted yesterday down at a big event in Shelter Island down in San Diego, and it was great, man. There was about 8 speakers, and I was able to keynote at the end, and it was just electric, man.
All right, and then I know you have the Monster Motivator TV, so can you talk about your show and tell them where they can check it out?
Yeah, so Monster Motivator TV is a live stream TV show on through Facebook. We're mobile. We come to you, or you can come up to my studio in Marietta, and we're actually ready to take it to another level in the next 2 months. We're probably going to take it off of Facebook and actually pre-record it and step up the whole production, because now we're in the process of bringing on some sponsors, and ultimately what it is we want to highlight, promote local businesses, entrepreneurs, nonprofits making a difference in the community, so we can help get their name out there, or whatever they're doing, but still get behind that black curtain, so we can give a lot of value.
All right. And then also, so I was listening to one of your shows, and I heard you saying, like, when you was 19 years old, I heard you telling the story about you beat up some off-duty cops that you didn't know they was off-duty cops.
Yeah, what happened was I'm from Jersey, and I was down the Jersey Shore with a few of my buddies, and we were walking through this back alley to go to a nightclub, and a car came down that alley, and long story short, it was a few guys in a car. We were walking. There were some words exchanged. They got out of the car, and then we had an altercation, and they got the worst of the end of it, and one of them happened to be the driver actually happened to be a off-duty cop in that town, and we were looking at some major issues there, man. And like I said, I was sitting in there in the jail cell looking at 8 to 10 years. But the reason it did go our way is because they were drinking, they were driving, they pursued us. I still did a little bit of time down in jail, but nothing like it could have been. And that really changed. That was an aha moment for me, man, because I got a taste of that, and I didn't want to go back. So it helped me in other things in life that came up that I would have probably got caught up in, but it was that life lesson, man. I didn't want to touch that stove again.
Yeah, and I was saying that, but then the thing is too, sometimes you have people where they have that one incident, but then they're in trouble. They go to jail, and that's it. First accident, and that's it. So it's crazy how sometimes it works like that.
Yeah, it just worked out that way, and the whole circumstance really kind of worked out in our favor at the very end. But yeah, man, it was a life lesson. And then there was also people that have that situation, it fell their way, but they still didn't learn.
Mm-hmm.
So they still found themselves back in trouble, you know, back in those issues. And now I'm not saying, trust me, I'm not saying it was a clear sailing road after that. It wasn't, but it could have been much, much worse.
Okay. And I know you have a new book, so I just want you to show us the book and talk about your book a little bit. Knockout Fear in the First
I don't know
Round.
if we got a glare, but it's called Knockout Fear in the First Round. And I go into my story in more depth, who I am, where I came from, where I'm at today, where I see myself going. And then I just I tie in, I believe that the fear barrier is the ultimate bully in life. And so many people don't realize that, and they don't know how to identify and break through those fears that they have. And I want to teach people, you know, as you know, the only way to stop a bully, forget all the politically correct stuff, you got to step up, right? I'm going to teach you. Yeah, well, you got to step up and get that respect, right? So when you have that fear barrier come in and you go back into safety, that fear barrier is just going to get bigger and scarier, right? But and when you can identify that and break through that, knock that out, you start to grow inside. You start to create a stronger self-image, and then that bully disappears. And it's the same thing, and this is life. And that's why I believe that all the fear barriers, the fear of the unknown, the fear of the darkness, the fear of getting out of your comfort zone, the fear of failure, the fear of what if, the fear of success, all those fears that we have all map to two major fears: the fear of change and the fear of what other people think. And if I can help people identify and crush those two fears, I believe that that's the golden egg, man. That's the golden ticket to moving forward, growing and expanding in life. And one of the chapters, I think it's chapter 4. No, it's chapter 3. I say the title of this chapter, Fearless is Bullshit. And here's what I mean by that. We're conditioned to think, and I know you've heard it over the years, you got to be fearless, man. Po, if you're not fearless, you're never going to win. And I used to buy into that. I used to think, why? Well, why am I still feeling fear, right? There must be something wrong with me. I'm in this darkness. Why am I feeling it? Because it's natural. See, fear is going to happen, right? What you want to tap into is your courageous part of you. See, courage comes from that 3-letter word core. It comes from the inside. And courage is really moving forward through that darkness while you're fearful, right? Moving forward. So it's not about, there is no such thing as fearless. It's a myth. It's a misconception. And I think it's misleading to so many people, and it gets so frustrating because they're wondering why they're fearing feeling fear. And in the other chapter I talk about is the dynamic duo. Listen, whatever you're going for, if it doesn't scare you and excite you at the same time, it's not big enough. We need that, right, as juices, but we have to learn how to manage it. And I always say, Po, it's the fears, they're either going to be your propeller or your anchor. That's up to you.
And I was going to say, how much of it do you think is fear of the unknown? Because I think a lot of times we're afraid because we don't know. So if you like research whatever you're afraid of, that'll kind of get the fear go away.
You know, and that's a good point. I'd like to go a little deeper on that, and I think that maps right to the fear of change, right? Because change is the unknown, right? And one thing, a point I want to really put across and set the stage for this, so when we go deeper, is, first of all, people have to understand this. First and foremost, I don't make the rules, you don't make the rules, they don't make the rules. Life makes the rules. Life says evolution, change is going to happen whether you like it, whether you agree with it, or whether you're ready. Life says that train is leaving with or without you, and it might even run you over if you don't get on that train, right? And if we're talking about business, and if someone's not sure how powerful that point is, if we're going to relate this to business, if you're not sure how powerful change is, and it could be your best friend or your worst enemy, just ask Blockbuster Video. Just ask Kodak Film. Just ask Borders Books. It doesn't matter how big you are. It doesn't matter how long you've been around. If you're not on the cutting edge, if you're not willing to change and move forward, learn and grow, you're going to be left behind.
And then the thing about all those companies, I'm pretty sure they had employees telling them, like, hey, do you see this? You should look at this.
No, you want to know something? This is true. Blockbuster Video had 2 major meetings. They were going to buy Netflix, right?
Right.
They were actually going to buy Netflix. But 2 major meetings at 2 different times, their executives came back with all their files and all their reports and all their everything, right? And said, no, it's not going to go this way. It's not worth buying them. Let's just do what we're doing and stay where we're at. And you see what I mean? But you're going against nature, right? You're going against nature. Nature is evolution, man. Nature is growing. And I also, you know, on another note, I also believe, Po, on a personal note, that I think there's a lot, you know, we hear this all the time. There's a lot of people that say they have depression, they don't feel good, they can't get out of their own way. And I think one of the reasons that is for a large percentage, and I know that there's other circumstances where there's chemical imbalances, but for the most part, a very large portion of that depression is because they're not willing to grow and get out of their comfort zone. They go back into safety because we're humans and we're built to grow and evolve. Now what happens when you go back into that safety, you're looking for outlets, and most of those outlets are toxic. Gambling, drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever that is, because we're looking for an outlet. We're looking to grow, move forward, but because we're in that safety, now what happens a lot of times, it's a toxic outlet. Thankfully, me and you have the gym. That's a good outlet.
I was gonna say, but how much of that do you think, like you was talking about, those types of people, is law of attraction? Because I feel like if you're saying, "Oh, I can't do this, I can't do this," like, yeah, you can't do it. Like that's what you think about all day, so you're bringing that into your life.
Oh, 100%, because as we know, everything's energy, right? And quantum physics tells us that. This isn't the pink clouds, the unicorns, and the Easter Bunny.
Right.
Quantum physics backs us on that, and guess what? It's interesting. I love that you went there. Let me see what, chapter, and we call them rounds. Round number 7, because it's knockout fear in the first round. Round number 7 is called the game changer. And I believe this is the most underutilized, misunderstood step in life, and it's your inner coach. What are you telling yourself on a daily basis, right? And most people, if they don't understand this, they look back and they audit their day. A big percentage of their day, the majority of their day, is going to be depleting, weakening, moving you back. I'm too fat. I'm too skinny. I didn't graduate college. I don't have a degree. They don't want to talk. It's that negative self-talk, right, that creates that momentum and that conditioning. And like you said, what else can you attract except what you're bringing in?
So who would you say who was your book for? Like, who did you write it for?
Really, anybody that wants to learn how to move, grow, and expand, and get out of their comfort zone, and understand why that is, and more importantly, understand how to identify. First, identify, because you can't fix it if you don't know, and a real practical steps on how to identify and crush through those dreaded fear barriers, personal, professional, whatever that is. It all connects, because this is life. And everything that I share, everything that I teach, I'm a student just sharing what I've been taught, and everything comes from real life practical steps that I've used. So nothing in here for me is theory.
And then how long did it take you to write the book, and what's your process when you're writing a book?
Okay, so here's the other thing. I always we're talking about business, and I always tell people, I always look into a business. And the mindset is I want to identify my strengths, and I want to enhance my weaknesses so I can double down, triple down, quadruple down on my strengths. Now, how this book was written is there was a lady that was on my my Monster Motivator TV show a few months ago, and she flew in from Arizona. So we did her show in Encinitas, and during the show I found out that she had a publishing company, her own publishing company. And after she's telling her story, well, about 2 months before that show, it was a Saturday night, I'm in my office and I'm working. And I said, you know, I want to write a book. And so I wrote down all the chapters for the titles of each chapter, right? The table of contents. And then I just tabled it. I just put it away, right? I have it up on my desk here, and it's sitting up. And I still have the original one that I wrote out right here. And 2 months later, we do the show. I find out that she's a publisher. We get done the show. We connected unbelievable. We get done the show. I get in my truck to leave, and I'm like, man, I text her. I said, Kelly, I said, I want to write a book. I would love to write it. And then she texted me right back. She goes, I said, when you get back to Arizona and get settled, I'd like to talk to you about writing a book. She texted me back. She goes, oh, my God, I would love to write a book with you. I said, great. So she got back to Arizona. We had a meeting. I said, but here's the deal. I said, I'd rather have root canal done than write. I'm not going to sit here and write a book. She goes, okay, but where's the book? I said, the book is up here. She goes, okay. She goes, how about if you audio it, email them to me, and I'll write it out. And I said, that's perfect. I said, but here's the only 2 stipulations. She goes, what? I said, number 1, I'm a momentum guy. When I get going, let's knock this out. If you can't knock this out quick in your schedule, let's stop. Let's not do it until you know you can. She goes, no, let's go. I said, okay. And then I said, secondly, it has to be in my flavor. So I recorded chapter after chapter and sent it to her, right? We had this book done, complete, out of the press, graphics in a month and a half. Right? Now, the first edition, before it was actually done, we sent out, and she sent out to a bunch of her people. And the response, I said, what was the response? She goes, they all said, oh my God, it's so Jersey, it's so East Coast. I said, all right, you nailed it. She got my flavor. So we, in a month and a half, it was done. She captured my flavor, and all I did, Po, was record chapter after chapter on Audacity and email it to her. And then that was it. And people, if people say, well, I can't write, you got to figure out your strengths and enhance your weaknesses in life. That's how you move forward. That's how you do it. You have to tap into your reserves. You have to tap into your resources. And again, like you were saying, instead of saying I can't, figure out why you can.
And I would say, so far as because most people, they want to put out a book, but they have to understand it's more than just putting out a book. Like you said, it's the business behind it, like marketing, promotion. So give us some tips about that. It's social media, right? We have an opportunity to create our own brand. We have an opportunity to create our own media platform. And as you know, that's my goal. That's where I'm at right now. So you want to connect with the right people, and you got to just hustle, man. You got to get out there. You got to if whatever your niche is, it has to really be you, because you got to constantly put content out. And if it's something that you don't connect with, you're never going to be able to put the amount of content out to get your name out there and to build that brand. And I'll give you another example. Like Gary Vee says, it's all about the hustle, right? You have it or don't you? I'm literally in Arizona last week, going from one end of the state to the other. 5 days. I booked. She booked me on TV shows out there to promote the book, and I think I did 4 or 5 Monster Motivator shows out there as well. I made sure I booked them before I went out there. We just hustled like crazy. I went up and down that state like it was crazy. It was a lot of fun, but it was so that's what you have to do. You have to hustle. You got to build that brand. But if it's something that you don't have a passion for, find out other thing that you have a passion for, because as you know, you got to put out content. You got to give, and give. So what advice would you give to people trying to get in the speaking part, like professional speaking, public speaking?
Again, it's a grind, man. You gotta be willing to do the free gigs. You gotta be willing to you gotta be willing to really hone in on your craft. And one of the biggest things that I could say is we're living in a world now, because of social media, that everyone is starving for real, right? They just want the real. Especially in my niche, back in the day, everything was so canned. Everything was so structured. Even the speaking, big names that we know in my niche, in your niche, in the personal development, they're so canned in their speaking. They will actually know when they're going to lean on a podium, when they're going to cross their arm. That's right. Yeah. But we're living in a time now because of guys like Gary Vee that said, no, 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 no. We're just going to be real. And yesterday was such a great experience because I did the keynote, and that was the biggest response from people on social media and in person. They're like, man, you're just so real. And for me, that just works the best for me. So here's the best thing about the public speaking. Just keep it real. Know who you are, know your content, and keep it real. Because you see me. Every time I do a keynote, I did a keynote in La Jolla a few weeks ago, and I said to my assistant, it was the first time she was there at live with me, and we were live streaming it, and I said, Cindy, now this was La Jolla, very corporate, very, very stuffy, right? I come walking in, and they're like looking at me like, who is this guy, right? Where did he come from, Mars? And I said, watch their faces change and their body structure change halfway through this talk. And in the beginning, I mean, they didn't know. They were just like trying to figure this out, very reserved, very tight. Halfway through, they just started to relax. You could see smiles. They were laughing at certain points of it. And then at the end, there was a line of people wanting to come up to introduce themselves. And she goes, oh, my God. She goes, it was 180 from the time we walked in to the time we left. And my point is, be you, understand who you are, embrace it, and just run with it, man, and keep it real.
And then what are some things you do to improve your craft, like to get better at your craft?
Just doing it. Just doing it. It's getting out there. Like, and people are like, well, how do I get gigs? You go to Kiwanis Club, Rotary clubs. They're always looking for speakers. It's going to be free, but that's how you do it. It's like a comedian, right? They just keep twisting and tweaking, but they got to get out there. They got to get on that stage. There's nothing like being out on that platform. You have to go and do it. And then I always say, and I was taught this way, create the foundation, create the map, right? So you're not all over the place, but just know your content so you can feel free. Like Gary Vee, right, is knowing your content and just going with it. And one of the things I completely connect with Gary is I would much rather, if I could, I'm not there yet, I would much rather tell my story for 10 minutes and then get into Q&A right from Jump Street, man, because Q&A for me is that connection. So if you're asking me a question, now I know it really means something to you, and let's really dive into it, right? And there's a lot of speakers, I believe, because they just don't know their content, they'd rather not do Q&A because they're afraid of what is that question, or am I going to look dumb? And for me, man, let's go. Let's roll with it, man. Nothing's off the table. And I'll tell you, if I don't know, I don't know. And I also set the foundation this way. Whatever I share with you, right, take what works, throw out the rest.
I would say, so you said Gary Vee's name like 5 or 6 times, so I guess you're a big fan of Gary Vee.
Well, you know what, dude? He's changed the game for us, man. He's running in that forefront because this kid, has built a $100 million business. Before that, he's built a $60 million business, and he'll walk on stage in front of a huge audience with a hoodie, sneakers, and jeans. Roll up his sleeves and just blow their doors away. And before that, honestly, the old school thinking was you had to be suit, tie, and look like you're successful, or else you're not going to be successful. And that's a misconception, man. It's just not real.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the thing too. I know like someone that's like my age, like I know or younger, they might feel like, well, I can't do this yet because they might feel like they haven't did enough in life yet. Or do you say just go for it?
Well, it depends, right? It depends on what you want to do. Look, as you know, if you're a 22-year-old kid and you're going to be a life coach, how well is that going to work out, right?
Yeah.
Right? Because you really, but if you're a 22-year-old kid and you could share your actual experiences up to that point and they're unique, then run with it. But it has to, in other words, it has to be real, right? It has to be coming from real wisdom or connection. Like, what is your what is your passion? What is your strength? What is it? And just run with it when it comes to building your brand. I mean, one of the, like Rob Dyrdek, right? I don't know if you know him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from day one, 11 years old, the kid knew he was loved skating, became a pro skater, got sponsored, and then just got a reality show, and then just built his brand from there, because that's who he was. That was his passion. And now, obviously he's just huge success. So figure out where is your what's your passion? What do you want to do? And then just run with it, especially at the time we're in. Man, we can build see, the thing about the social media is if you're willing to pay the price, if you're willing to pay the dues, if you're willing to earn it, and just go out there and build this, after a little while, all the leverage starts to come back to you. Now, they're coming to you instead of you going to them. The game has changed, man, in 10 years. It's changed. Before this, if we wanted a celebrity brand, me and you would have to knock on the doors in Hollywood, right? And play their game. But Gary shows us, no. You build this if you're willing to pay the price. Now they play your game. Yeah. He said numerous times he's turned down reality show deals because it didn't fit for what he wanted, right? He's turned down deals. They're coming to him, right? Because he built that brand. And I use him because I do follow him, and most people, do know him. And he started from nothing. Yeah. Started from nothing, right? So the time we're living in is, I was on a podcast the other day, and a lady called in and she said, it was a live podcast. She called in and she said, I can't, you're talking about being around the right people and surrounding yourself with the right people, and environment is so important. I said, yeah, it is. She said, I can't do that. I go, what do you mean you can't? She goes, well, my environment is very negative and this and that. She goes, I can't find the right people. I said, well, I say you're wrong. She goes, what? Right? I said, you're wrong. She goes, what? I said, well, you're on a podcast right now with a few people that will help you, right? Yeah. That are like-minded. And I said, you're on social media, obviously. You have thousands, millions of people at your disposal 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for free. Mm-hmm. And she goes, I never thought of it. Well, yeah, I mean, now you create your own environment. It's really, the time we're living in, dude, is just absolutely phenomenal, man. It's phenomenal.
So what would you like to say to all your fans and supporters of your brand?
My whole thing really maps to one thing, and it's time. Time is our biggest commodity. But so many people, and we have a decision. We can either waste it or we can invest it. And so many people, whether they realize it or not, are wasting it. And this is our one at bat. This is our only ride. So, and we don't know how long this ride is. My ride could be over today, or it could be over 60 years from now. I don't know. But one thing I would say to people is, and I hear this all the time, you're the monster motivator. You're the fear barrier guy. What are you afraid of? And I say there's not even a second place I'm completely and utterly terrified of regret. I ain't leaving with anything on the table. And if I could pass one message along, is, man, you're gonna die. So, man, just live and figure it out, and don't leave anything on the table.